NSFW people of Reddit, what is the situation that you tough to yourself yet? This is my all-time low. When I went to my ex-wife's parents to plead for help dealing with their gambling-addicted daughter. Poured my guts out explaining that if we didn't get help for her soon we'd lose the only house our 3 sons have ever known. Over the last year we were together I stopped counting her loses once I hit $100,000. Casino apps are no joke. Anyway, her parents explained they had no idea and would step in ASAP. 2 weeks later my ex and her family got together over the weekend. They didn't tell me anything other than keep an eye on the boys. No problem, figured it was an intervention. Nope. They all went to the casino together. I filed 2 months later after realizing I could secure the house for my kids. When I had been on a 3-day party trip and was going back to my apartment on the train. Started to sweat like mad and my stomach did not feel good. Tried to waddle myself home like a penguin, clenching my butt cheeks all the way. About 200 m from my apartment building it didn't work anymore and I shat my pants. Had to then shit the rest out on the pavement, and get home ASAP. I don't think you could even measure the level of shame, anxiety, and stupidity I felt at that time. Edit, I was 36 years old at this point. When I rented a room in a house, and it was the 4x7 floor space behind a home basement bar, you could smell the dead rats in the wall. I was at work, still drunk from the night before. I was starting to panic realizing that I would have a client in my office in a half hour and I looked like shit and felt worse. The kicker? I worked in a drug and alcohol treatment center. I was the financial person and did the intake process with every client before they went to see their counselor. I ended up going to my boss, fessing up, admitting that I had a problem and being told that I needed to get help or I'd have to be let go. I was faced with losing my job, which would lead to losing my home and probably custody of my child. I realized I was on the path to becoming my father and stepmother and I did not want that. I had to make a choice and my whole life hinged on that choice. I've been sober over 17 years now. EDA I am really grateful and humbled by the kind comments. Thank you. And if you are struggling out there, please find a group of sober folks or treatment. AA works for some but not all and there are other non-AA sobriety groups out there. You are worthy of a healthy life. No matter how bad it is now, it can get better. It might be really hard at first, but it can get better. There is also r/stop drinking right here on Reddit. When I got in my car and my gut was so big that even with the seat as far back as it could go, it would dig into the steering wheel. I had to suck in my gut before making turns. Heaviest I'd been in my life. 100 pounds down from that weight though. Still going strong. Woke up with a tube down my throat, brace around my neck, cuts and bruises everywhere, unable to move with 2 cops right above me. I had to sit there while they explained to me I was hit by a driver who ran a light. I had to drop out of school for a year, lost my job and was in / out of treatments for over a year. All because of someone's stupid decision. Edit, should have mentioned this, I wasn't in a car. I was crossing a well-lit crosswalk. And yes, I waited until the sign turned green and looked around for cars, still wasn't enough to save me. Psych ward. I remember waking up and thinking I never thought I'd see this day. After my divorce years ago, my buddy thought it was a good idea to give me a keg of Christmas ale. I sat alone at home and filled up an empty milk gallon jug every night with it and drank it until it was gone, but not before using it to wash down multiple Ambien in one sitting. I still look back and wonder how I'm still alive to talk about it. The day I found my fiancée dead in her tub after having a seizure. It has been a little over a year now and I'm definitely doing better, but I don't think I'll ever have the happiness that I used to have. When I gambled a big percent of my savings in a few seconds, and yes I lost. I pawned my wedding ring to get money to feed my pill addiction. It opened my eyes though and I ended up cleaning up after a few more months and getting my ring back. My wife worked her ass off to buy me that ring and I was such an addicted piece of shit that I pawned it for a fix. Glad that moment finally woke me up though. 11 years clean now. When I think to myself, do I have enough alcohol to get myself through the weekend, and buy a bottle of vodka just in case? Then spending the weekend feeling like shit and hating myself, wondering why I'm not happy. Negative feedback loops exist and are a bitch. If you remove yourself from it for 2 weeks, I promise you'll get better. Edit, it's a positive feedback loop, even though the experience is negative. It builds on itself. Sitting in my home, wrecked from a failed overdose attempt, 20k in debt, no job, addicted to painkillers, and wondering if I called my mom, if she would even care, or just tell me it was my problem to fix. She cared. Spent the next 10 years putting me back together. Mom died Tuesday morning. As bad as I feel, and having BPD, that's pretty bad, I'm not going to backslide. I won't make all her love and effort meaningless. I will keep things under control and moving forward. Edit, thanks for all the kind words. Homeless, dope sick, and shitting in a tire in a vacant lot at 3 a.m. while trying to mix a bag of heroin I knew was just crushed up drywall, but I just had to make sure. Checked into detox the next day. That was 20 years ago. Sitting in the suicide naughty room of the ER trying to figure out how to eat the applesauce they brought me without access to any utensils. Ended up using the lid as a kind of scoop, which was good enough. Definitely an all-time low. Thankfully I'm medicated, in therapy, and doing much better now. And I can eat my applesauce with spoons like a big girl. What expert is actually a total moron? Removed. Someone made a simulation of buying Jim Cramer's picks and one would have lost a ton of money. The Bogdanov twins. They weren't experts who became quacks over time, they were frauds from the start, using negligent peer review standards to get total nonsense published in legitimate journals, then using those publishing credentials to position themselves as education personalities. It worked. The two became celebrities, but I think are better known as a meme at this point. The experts on Married at First Sight. They average less than a 10% success rate in matching couples. Literally any financial expert on social media. If this is in the scope of this, but most of the internet gurus/social media jackasses that people worship these days because of the stupid flashy lifestyle hustle grind bullshit they flaunt non-stop. Grant Cardone, Tai Lopez, etc., fuck those guys. Andrew Wakefield. There were several cases in Germany. After some school shootings, the media tried to make video games responsible for that. They made TV specials about it, Frontal 21, and brought up the shooter Warcraft 3 and made a voiceover with "Shoot until the aliens come." The shown footage was from StarCraft Brood War. Also, the expert they interviewed was an old woman called Regine Pfeiffer, sitting in her kitchen with flower tapestry, labeled as video game expert. Pretty much all of the YouTube alpha male dating advice weirdos. Like, dude, you're 20, stop wearing a suit and tie and worrying about ring codes. It's weird. Also, none of those pickup tips will ever work. Dr. Phil. Jim Cramer. Joel Osteen, Dr. Ounce, and Dr. Phil. BTW. Just as a side, while Dr. Phil isn't a licensed psychologist, the fact he still has his PhD, he is still on paperwork a doctor of clinical psychology. He just can't legally practice. Any MLM consultant. The guy that can disarm any weapon. I forgot what his name is, but he's on TikToks. Update, Detroit survival training. Art Vandelay. Pretty sure he isn't a marine biologist or an architect. According to men, what is it that girls do that they think is attractive but that is not even the slightest bit? They chuck a hockey stick at your head. Trying to make you jealous by totally randomly hinting at other guys she's met, etc. Talking shit about other girls. Like if you gotta shit on someone else to look good, hard pass. A close second is when they act like if I don't want them they have other dudes lined up. This doesn't make me want you more. Marrying another guy, like come on, that's a little much just to get my attention. Needing to be rescued. Guys might like the idea of coming to a girl's aid every once in a while, but not as a lifestyle. A relationship with someone who constantly has crises and can't stand on her own 2 feet gets old fast. When they are obsessed with social media and their image. My ex drove me fucking crazy with this. Every date, everything we did had to be a photo opportunity for Insta. Like JFC, just live in the moment for once. Acting ditzy. Intelligence is a turn on. Acting like an idiot is not. That seductive face you see celebrities make when posing for photos. It just looks like you're having a hard time. Saying how many other guys are trying to sleep with them / get them out on dates. Duck face. We've been over that. Playing dumb, that shit is so unattractive. I love V smart PPL. Playing hard to get. Girl, I'm gonna ask you only once. If you reject me, I'm moving on. I don't need this crap. Insult other people behind their back but act fake nice in person. Peeing and pooing all over. Fake tans.